Hey there, and welcome to this course on For Elise, the great piano piece set for guitar here. One of the beauties of this piece is that it's in A minor on the piano and it's in A minor on the guitar. It really actually works in its original key really well on the guitar. So that's a really nice bonus. Oftentimes we have to transcribe over to the guitar and put it into a different key, but this is actually in the same key. So to get started here, what we're going to do is we're going to take an overview of the whole piece, look at what we're looking at, and then also we're going to look at a few different little tendencies that we can expect to see throughout the piece. That way, as we go through the separate sections one by one, then we will have already covered these large full piece things. We won't have to talk about them as much in each individual section. So here's our piece. This is our piece, just this and then the one line on this page. And if you're using tab, it's the same piece, but it's going to look different on the page. When we look at this from a really high level like this, we're looking for main features. So 3/8 time signature, well, that's a feature. That's going to tell us basically what kind of counting we're going to do, which in eighth notes, we're looking at this, and then we just looking through, we have all these double barred, which are 16th notes. And so then in an eighth note, a 16th note is twice as fast or half as long as an eighth note. So we're going to be counting 1N, 2N, 3N. We could have written this also in quarter notes and just written it all as, or in 3/4 time, and then written it all as quarter notes and eighth notes, but that's not what we did. So this is going to be count 1 and 2 and 3 and for each measure. That's the way we're going to be counting it throughout. So that's good to know right off the bat. There also, we can look at this and notice that in the key signature, at the beginning of every line, that's the sharps and flats that are constant throughout every line. There are no sharps or any flats in the key signature. So we're in the key of C or alternately A minor. In this case, it's A minor. And then in the second part, we do actually go up to C. The next big thing, next big landmark that we can see is this repeat sign right here. So that means that there's a section right here, right? And that means that more than likely then we're going to start up here at the beginning, and it's pretty much going to be, this is going to be the end of a section. We can just assume. This happened to actually has some notes that will send us into the new section, but more or less, this first part to this point, section 4, is going to be the first section, and then we have this repeat. And where does it go to? Well, it goes to the end over here, and there it is again. And that brings us to these brackets up here, 1 and 2, and they have a little 1 and a 2 in them. And let's look at those and just make sure that you know what's going on here with these. These are part of the roadmap, how we navigate from one place to the next into a piece. So to begin with, there's no repeat at the very beginning, so we're just going to go straight through to this point, to right here. And then here, we're going to go through like this to this point, through the first ending to right there, and then we're going to repeat back to right here. And we'll do this in a different color. So then we're going to, at this point, we're going to go back to here and then go through again, and then this next time we're going to hop over the section 1 and end at the section 2. So we don't play this measure the second time. Isn't that a big old colorful mess? So this is the basic roadmap. If we were going to put letters on this, then this would be the A section, this would be the B section, and it would basically be A, B, B. So that would be our form, B, B. Once we look closer in there, there's actually, from about this point right here, this is just like the A. So really, it's almost like, so it's, A, B, A, B, A. Once we look closer, but there's no way from this view, from this 30,000 foot view, that we can actually see that at this point. But that's really what's happening. The next thing we're going to look at here is the way that the stems are arranged. So the stems are arranged very methodically. This is our first section, and we'll talk about section 1 in just a minute. But before that, let's look at these stems arranged. So in some measures, all the stems are the same direction, like this one right here, right? All the stems are going the same direction, and they can either go up or down, but they're all the same, and that's worth noting. Then in the next measure, we have a dotted eighth note here, with 3 down stems and then 3 up stems. And this is important because whenever we have multiple parts going on in the music, we in guitar we delineate that by stem direction. So then the stems up are the melody and the stems down are not the melody. So this is really important to note because that means that the melody, if we're going to count this, is going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. And the and 2 right here are not melody. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. And the way that you would tell this is by and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So our melody is not 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. It's not all melody. There is a melody. This is our melody. So we'll want to know that. And we'll talk about this more as far as this is balancing the different voices. We have the melody voice and then we have the accompaniment voice, the accompanimental voice or the bass voice. And so knowing the difference in those is a very musical thing to do. And it's a really great, the way that guitar music is laid out, oftentimes is really organized if you know how to look at it in that way. And if you get a good editor who's done that really well. Now here, these first couple, and we'll talk about this, there's only them. So there's not but one voice happening. These could, and so then it'll just optimize to whatever the easiest way to look at it would be. In this case, because the notes are high, the stems will go down. But really this is melody as well. But we'll talk about that in section 1. So back to this, we have our melody, we have our bass, we have our roadmap, so our big A section and B section with the repeats and the endings. We also have this harmonic down here. We'll talk about it when we get there. There's a little harmonic here. And so that's very interesting to listen to. And I think that, Pocomoto, what does that mean? With motion. The next thing, and I'm just going to mention this now, and I'm sure I'll mention it again. This final note, this is we all know this piece, right? We all grew up hearing this piece. We all know for Elise. And so what we want to do immediately is to do this very romantic, and make it fast and make it slow and make it this elastic musical thing. And all things in good time. At first, what we're going to do is just get the thing set in stone so that we know the notes and we know our challenges and we know how to actually play it. Then we can pull and stretch time or compress time as we want to at that time. But to begin with, throw all of that out and take note. We might take note of what's going to happen and say, okay, I'm going to slow down right here, or I'm going to get louder as I get into this section or something like that. We take note of that right from the very beginning and start getting our ideas if we want to, or sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But our goal is to get our hands to do what we want them to do and to not fall into any traps where we can only do something if we slow down, for instance. We can only make a particular shift or make our hands do something if we slow down for that section. Then it's not a musical choice, it's a technical choice, and it's not completely above board. It's not completely clean because you really have no other choice of how you're going to play it. You have to slow down there because you can't do it otherwise. And so then you're not really making a musical choice. But that's a soapbox for a different day. This has been the overview of the For Elise. And in the next video, we'll start in earnest in section 1 and actually get playing this puppy. See you there.